Welcome to the Sisters on the Hill, the podcast from the Sisters of St. Benedict in Ferdinand. We are one of the largest communities of Benedictine women in the United States. And on this podcast, you'll get an inside look at life at the monastery, our work and ministries, programs, opportunities, and more.
Hello, welcome to the Sisters of St. Benedict of Ferdinand, Indiana's podcast. Today I have joining me Sister Jane Will, and she's going to tell us about spiritual direction and what all that entails for us and for those that need it. So welcome, Sister Jane, to our podcast.
Thank you, Sister Jill. I'm glad to be here.
Could you tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself before we get into the questions?
Sure, I'd be glad to. I was born and raised in Evansville, Indiana, along with 4 brothers and 2 sisters. I was the middle child, actually right in the middle, number 4. But in reality, I think that served me well. Early in my school years, I wanted to be a teacher. So after high school, I went to the University of Evansville, majoring in education. While in college, I felt a call to religious life. I prayed and discerned. And after 2 years at college, and at the age of 20, I entered the monastery of the Sisters of St. Benedict in Ferdinand, Indiana. I've had a good life as a member of this Benedictine community. It has been a good fit for me. 4 of our main values are community, prayer, hospitality, and ministry. And all of these areas continue to enrich my life. As a young sister, I completed my bachelor's degree on the campus of St. Benedict College. With graduation, my first assignment was to teach 8th grade. Of course, as most teachers do, I attended summer school and evening classes to receive a master's degree in education. I taught English and theology for 9 years in junior high and high school. I'll share a bit more about my education opportunities and ministry journey through the years. I really appreciate all the opportunities. I have enjoyed all the educational endeavors and have found fulfillment and enhancement in all my ministries, for the most part. After I finished my master's in education and was teaching theology in high school, I was encouraged to attend summer school at Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska, to study theology and spirituality. I received a master's in Christian spirituality. Unbeknownst to me at the time, but I found out later, this was in preparation for initial formation work. So I was asked to be the initial formation director for our community, which means working with the postulates and the novices. After my term as initial formation director, I moved into the area of psychology, earning a doctorate in clinical psychology. I worked as a licensed clinical psychologist for a number of years in a medical center and also private practice. And then I was in community administration as a subprioress. Since 2014, I've circled back around, and I am a member of our community's spirituality ministry team. Currently, I am a spiritual director. I serve on our directed retreat teams, and I'm a spiritual director for individuals who come for a private retreat at a time in the length of their choice.
Nice. You've had a lot of opportunity to do different things through your time here, haven't you?
Yes, I have, in education and ministry, so It's been nice.
So how did you get your start as a spiritual director?
Okay, actually, my start in spiritual direction began when I began my initial formation work as the director for the community. As I mentioned, I received a master's in Christian spirituality from Creighton University. And this included classes in theology, scripture, faith development, human development, prayer, history of spirituality, and lots of coursework and practicums in spiritual direction and retreat work. During our practicum experience, we would be spiritual directors for individuals who had an interest in spiritual direction and volunteered to be our directees. Of course, we were under supervision, and I had good mentors, as I had been in spiritual direction for a number of years myself, and still am. For our practicums, I had several people, various ages, as well as one student who was a senior at the university. I don't remember that we discussed religious vocations as part of her spiritual direction sessions. However, I was happily surprised when 4 years later, she wrote to me from Guam saying she felt a call to be a sister and she wanted to visit our community. Long story short, she did enter our community. That has always been a reminder to me in spiritual direction, God is the director, and God's graces are always at work in us. So the start of my being a spiritual director began with my initial formation ministry over 40 years ago.
Wow. And how do you think that being a spiritual director, how has that enhanced your life?
In lots of ways. First of all, my life has been enhanced, and I feel blessed with all the opportunities for formal education. The practicums, attending workshops, attending spiritual directors' international conferences, and peer supervision that I participate in over the years and still do. It's always so enriching to share and to learn from others. All these experiences have helped me to grow spiritually. And I feel like there's been an integration of body, mind, and spirit through this for me. Secondly, and just as important, I feel that my life is enhanced in every spiritual direction session as I listen as the directee shares of his or her relationship with God. Everyone's story is unique, and it's a blessing to hear of their experiences. It's always enlightening and enhancing to me as individuals begin to share why they are interested in spiritual direction at this time. They may be dealing with a change, experiencing a life transition. They may say that they feel something is missing. There's an emptiness, a spiritual restlessness. Many sense what St. Augustine said, "Our hearts are restless until they rest in you, O God." They may be wondering, what is God up to in my life? Perhaps they're wanting to learn more about prayer, forgiveness, justice issues, to improve their relationships with God, self, and others. It can be any number of things. For me, it is very enhancing and fulfilling when the directee shares how they experience God, and they know that they are becoming more aware of God's presence and actions in their daily lives. My heart is filled with joy as I companion another on their spiritual journey.
Very much the companionship, isn't it, of helping them?
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing, too. We call it spiritual director, but it's more of a companioning. It's not telling anyone what to do or how they're to act and believe, but you're right, the companioning.
Yeah, and listening. Lots of listening.
Lots of listening.
What's the best thing about being a spiritual director?
Well, it's wonderful to me that my ministry is so God-centered. It's a gift and a grace to be in the presence of a seeker, someone who longs to deepen their relationship with God. And that's the main focus. And that's what my companioning and listening is about. I consider being a spiritual director a privilege. It's an honor to journey with individuals who long to grow spiritually, to become who God truly calls them to be. There's great joy in holy listening as the director who shares their experiences, their awarenesses of divine moments in their lives, of the presence of God or lack of God's presence. in all aspects of their life. And really, the best thing about being a spiritual director is knowing God is truly in control. It's a relief knowing I am the companion. God is the director. I like the image of 3 chairs in the room. One for God, the director, with a capital D. One for the director and one for the directee with small d's. And I share this image with the directees early on. I like the prayerful atmosphere in which spiritual direction takes place. A sacred meeting, usually starting with prayer or quiet time. Knowing that God is always present in our blessings when things are going very well, as well in our disappointments, frustrations, losses, when things seem to be falling apart. Listening to the Holy Spirit and becoming aware of how God is present in all events and circumstances is a blessing and brings consolation. Overall, experiencing God's presence and unconditional love is the best thing.
That's beautiful. I like the 3 chairs.
Yes, they help keep things in perspective, I think. God certainly is present, is there, and the director.
Yeah. So if someone was wanting a spiritual director or getting into spiritual direction, what would you recommend they do?
That's a good question, because I think many people feel that nudge or that urge and desire to seek spiritual direction, and they wonder, how or where do I begin? So I would ensure him or her that it's a good sign that they're even thinking about or wondering about spiritual direction. I would remind them that God's the initiator, and God certainly is present in this, and encourage them to listen. I would also encourage them to learn what spiritual direction is, and that it would be helpful to consider what spiritual directors generally do. It'd be beneficial to ask themselves why they are considering spiritual direction at this time, and to have an idea of what they might expect to happen in a spiritual direction meeting. I tell them you may find it helpful to read about spiritual direction, and there's lots of information online, and or to talk with people who know about spiritual direction, a pastor, friend, someone in spiritual direction, a spiritual director, about their interests and desires or questions. There are also many religious communities, organizations, spiritual direction training programs that can be found online that can give them information and list of names of spiritual directors. And then they can choose someone near if they want face-to-face sessions or online. Before COVID, the vast majority of spiritual direction was done in person. With COVID, as we know, it changed things, and spiritual direction changed and began to be done online through Zoom, FaceTime, WhatsApp, phone, whatever. As society found out, this has become a very important means of communication. I can say I'm happily surprised how well it works. Like in person, the director and directee are in a quiet, confidential, prayerful atmosphere, which is conducive to spiritual sharing. As you search out a list of spiritual directors in your area or at a distance, you can then decide for yourself who you might like to contact. For example, on our webpage, we have a description of what spiritual direction is, as well as photos and some information about our spiritual directors. As you have some possibilities, it would be good to contact the spiritual director or the couple and tell them of your interest. Through this exchange, you get to know a little about each other. Usually, an appointment is then set up. During your first session, there's more sharing of the director's approaches to spiritual direction. as well as your questions and comments. During this time, both can see how comfortable they are with each other and decide if they would like to continue, and if so, schedule an appointment. Just one other bit of information. Directees meet with spiritual directors generally once a month, and the sessions usually last 40 to 60 minutes.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a very helpful synopsis of how to get started with a spiritual direction. Thank you. And one final question. If you were to describe spiritual direction in one sentence, what would that sentence be?
All right. That was difficult because there is many definitions out there as there are people doing spiritual direction. So this is mine. Spiritual direction is a sacred meeting time when a non-judgmental, compassionate companion listens intently and reflects with another God's presence as it unfolds in the ordinary and daily events of life.
Well, thank you for telling us about spiritual direction and being here today. I've been ending all the podcasts with the same questions to the sisters so that our listeners can get to know us as who we are and not just religious sisters. So just what comes to the top of your head. Coffee or tea?
Oh, definitely coffee.
Mystery novel or romance?
Oh, probably mystery.
Morning person or night person?
I guess I'll have to say morning because I've learned to be.
Would you like to go to the beach or to the mountains?
Oh, I love the sunshine and the open space and the ocean. I'd go to the beach.
Are you a summer person or a winter person?
Summer. I think I like the summers to get outdoors.
And if a young woman is listening and she's discerning religious life, what would be your advice to her?
Well, depending how she's discerning, if she's just beginning, I'd say, continue to pray for openness and then to begin to become acquainted with some religious and talk with them and get to know them and check out communities and see how that feels. If she experiences God continuing to call and feel that attraction to the life and what it has to offer.
Well, thank you, Sister Jane, for spending time with me, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Sister Jill. I'm glad to have been here and to share. You have a good day, too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Sisters on the Hill. If you're interested in exploring what life as a sister looks like and whether you're being called to that life, reach out to us at vocation@thedome.org. This podcast was recorded at Monastery Immaculate Conception in Ferdinand, Indiana, and was made possible by funds from our philanthropic circle, the Women of the Rule. Follow us on social media at Ferdinand OSB or visit us at thedome.org to learn more. That's THEDOME.org. Thanks again for listening and have a blessed day.